Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more here for some North American action here for FaceIt League. If you joined us earlier today, we of course had a little action going down in South America, where we went ahead and confirmed our fourth and final participant in their playoffs and their Master Tier. But here in North America, we're starting things on a different extent. We have Tanuki Tapire, a team that just confirmed their slot over on Tuesday. They'll be locked into that top 8 and are currently playing for seeding situations. Meanwhile, Dhill Dragons, a completely different situation. Right now, they are fighting with their tournament life on the line. If they lose, their chance of going in the top 8 is completely extinguished. So this win today is everything to them as a team.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it right there. Dhill Dragons currently sitting in that 10th and 11th spot, tied with In Control. But In Control, already 8 losses, already eliminated, so not really going to focus on them here. And, I mean, Hunter, that leaves 10 teams here. Or actually, that leaves about 6 teams fighting for those final 4 spots in the playoffs here. And, I mean, a lot of great stories amongst them. Alternate, Midori, Shikigami, Emo down mid, Extinction Zero, teams that we've all seen multiple times on our streams here. And a lot of teams right now at different points in their seasons, some riding enormous highs, while others, the lowest some of them have been. But right now, Dhill Dragons, like you said, this is a team that is basically for their season here with one more game to go after it.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the brighter sides for them is that that last game is against Amplify. It's one of those games that, from everything we've seen from both squads, it should be a game that they should be able to pull off. This is their real hurdle right here. If they're able to win both of those games, that's the funny part. Even if they win both games, that isn't necessarily mean they're going to be locked in. It is a scenario where they still need other teams to remain at that 8-win mark. So you have teams that have tough opponents coming up, you know, like Alternate, like Extinction Zero, like even Midori to an extent, where if you are Dhill Dragons, you are hoping on these teams losing here today, because if all 5 teams manage to somehow get a win today, which would be defy a lot of odds, by the way, this win could not matter for Dhill Dragons. You could win both games and still not lock in your spot.
Yeah, they're in that situation where you can only control so much, but you need a lot of help here. And I mean, in my opinion, they might be able to get that help. However, they need to be able to beat Tanuki Tapire here tonight. And I mean, you look at their last game against In Control. That game was essentially keep their season alive. They ended In Control's right there, kept theirs alive. 2 final games left to go here. They need to have a strong showing against Tanuki here tonight. And Hunter, I mean, I've casted Dhill Dragons a couple times this year, or this season. They looked good one time, didn't look good the other time. They're going to have a tough matchup here against Tapire, as these 2 teams, they want to go fast. Busan's going to be our first map of the night here.
Yeah, 100% it's going to be. It's pretty typical at the end of the day for us to get a Busan map pretty early on. But regardless, it's the bans that seem to be a little bit different, because with South America, it seems pretty locked in as to what ends up getting banned really earlier on. We've started seeing, though, things like the Baptiste come back into ban rotation. But in the situation for Dhill Dragons, I'm curious what route they want to end up going down in this situation. I mean, with it being Busan, there's a variety as to what you can play here. So this could potentially be more of a protection ban than anything else.
Having protection bans map 1, it's kind of like what we talked about during South America. It really doesn't make any sense. Wrecking Ball, though, coming out, I mean, we did see a little bit of Wrecking Ball in South America. Didn't really work out.
Nope.
And Hunter, you might be right. This might be one of those bans where it feels like a protection ban, but we might just not know one of these teams having maybe a superior Wrecking Ball player.
Yeah, exactly, because if I'm not mistaken, we haven't gotten the opportunity to look at Tapire on the stream previously. We've seen... Have we? Do you remember the game?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
You know what? You're right. You're completely right. Oh my god. We've gone through so many games at this point that, like, my brain has become a little fried. I know for a fact, though, we have seen Dhill Dragons in recent times as...
the other band.
Yeah, that one is the one that's definitely not a shocker whatsoever. Freya is still utilized to an extent, so I definitely don't blame that. But either way, we're already getting invited to the lobby and setting up for this one. Hi, Ewan. How you doing, my good friend? Did you mess up? Yeah, but either way, we're getting that figured out really quick. Either way, I know I am in here. Worst case, obviously I share my screen and we go wild. But either way, we're going to have to see what the case is going to be between these squads here today. I'm excited to see them both play for Dhill Dragons. Obviously, this is the bounce back that they need. Fun little history, though. Hikendo, Hikend, one of the members over on Tanuki Tapire actually just got picked up by, I believe it is Winthrop University, so they're joining their academy team over there, so obviously big congratulations to them, as we're currently just waiting for a couple more players to get in on the Tapire side to get us started, which, to be fair, is great for you, Dex. I see that face.
Yeah, no, I messed up.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, either way, ladies and gentlemen, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to be sharing my screen with Mr. Tron over here. You may experience some slight difficulties with the stream, but you know what? It should probably be fine. But we're going to get that quickly settled away, as I got to share less screen. Let me know if that's coming through all clean for you, good sir.
It's coming through good.
Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna piggyback off what you said. Hyken actually signing with Winthrop today, incredible pickup by them. Hyken has been a really impressive player throughout the, I believe, almost 2 years I've been seeing them now in leagues like CGL and some other ones. Incredible player, so a great pickup there by them. And I mean, I got to hang out and meet the entire Winthrop team. Everyone at Winthrop is incredibly nice, so they picked up a really, really good player. Dhill Dragons, though, let's look at that side real quick. How's your day? Ronan, Dreepy, Hypno, and Narakato. I mean, Hunter, we've seen this team a couple times. They are really good. This lineup in particular sounds like it should be a really good lineup. Mm-hmm. They just struggled here at times this season. I mean, losing three in a row to Emote Down Mid, Uni, and Extinction Zero. I mean, it's kind of the reason they're in this spot right now, where this is a win or do or die kind of game for them.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate to be in that under 500 scenario, because obviously that's not what you want in any capacity. But they still have this opportunity to bounce back. But again, it has to be something big here today, not just for the sake, of the future, but like you need to go in here today and find this new level of momentum. Because it's going to matter down the line, because even if you get through, you still need to find the answers from there. But either way, we're starting out on Mecha Base. Ronan is currently sitting over on the Orisa, as it seems Orisa is going to be utilized by both squads to get us started.
You think we shouldn't fight back?
That's not the biggest shock to us. That's been kind of the go-to for a lot of these teams here recently. That Orisa, a very survival, a really strong tank, really resilient tank, does a decent amount of damage, has a stun, has a big eat. Not a shock to see Orisa kind of rising to the top of what we've seen in OWCS. We saw it in South America. But outside of that, I mean, Lucio is starting to be one of those picks you are starting to see a little bit less of in favor of that BAP, which we did see banned out first last time in South America, but staying here where BAP has now slowly kind of rotated back into being that support where, I mean, at times it seems like you cannot do without them.
Yeah, definitely kind of seems to be the case right now, as Spingar going to be getting it started over here. Dreepy going to be more than happy to go over on the Sojourn to start us out, as pressure being delivered in the backline by Narakato, who's got to use the recall and back out for the time being. But point has opened up. You can see how's your day. Currently just forcing the cap right now, and it looks like Dhill Dragons are going to be content to simply take that over and come back into the fight shortly.
And I mean, if you're Dhill Dragons, you really needed to take this point here first, but you cannot afford to lose the first fight, and that's exactly what's happening right now. Spingar already finding two. Ronan gonna fortify, but not gonna be able to escape here, and you already kind of see it. Dhill Dragons just kind of stalling out the point as long as it can. Will net them about 17%, and you'll take that kind of percentage right there, especially in a fight that was lost way before. Lost a long time ago. However, you look at Ultimates here, Virtual, BAP, I feel like has to have some sort of change with their ultimate, because they're just building it up too quickly, it seems.
Yeah, God, that's the way these BAP teams have been the last couple of weeks. It's been astounding to really watch, and now I don't know if I would quite see this coming, honestly. But it's gonna come out, it's gonna catch them, and Dreepy gets eliminated on the spot, and now you're in a 4v5. Forcing a cap is gonna be pretty much impossible, as we're going to see Squeak head over to the point, as the rest of the squad just needs to try to get out alive. Ronan somehow gets Hikenda in that situation, so this fight is still winnable.
it's still winnable in a sense. You're gonna have the spawns, but hey, considering rush in, yeah, it's still be winnable. But now Terra starts out, not gonna be able to find much here though with it.
Yeah, it's going to get a weird situation going for Squeak, though, who will get taken out, and now this opens up the door for Dhill Dragons to make it happen, and to be honest, I'm not sure if there's much you can really do left. You are Tapire. You have to get some good picks here soon. It's a great stall over on the point for Ken right now, who eventually does get taken out, as it's really brilliant for them to keep stalling on the point one after another, staggering out as much as possible, because now the fight is potentially winnable, as Dreepy's going to try to make it back and might have to end up using the ult. In fact, is going to try to do so, but they're being pushed back harder and harder, and it looked like they're fight for a while, but suddenly Squeak and Spingar closing it out and making it final fight territory.
Yeah, that's the problem here, though, with a lot of these compositions, especially with it being Orisa. The sustainability sometimes just makes them so hard to kill, especially when you have one of those supports. And it's even worse when that one support that might be there is the Brig. Brig can just do so much healing at the moment. You have Beat ready to go for How's Your Day. Honestly, I would probably think about using it early, but it looks like they want to try to have a fight break out before they even consider it. But look at how low some of their teammates are.
Yeah, overtime will be contested. Ronan, though, cannot go down in this situation. Has to utilize the gold form pretty early on, but it looks like with this going down, they should be able to flip the point. Luckily, How's Your Day does hold on to the beat, so that's going to be an excellent tool, especially when you're walking into 3 ultimates coming up here for Tapire.
Yeah, I mean, Hyken's been holding on to this Terra Surge for, my bad, Tectonic Shocks here for a while. Virtual building up to another Ant Matrix. I mean, you have to know that's coming up here if you are Dhill Dragons. It's probably what you're holding on to the beat for at this point, just to try to at least make sure you have that get out time. But it wouldn't surprise me if Hyken starts off this fight with that Terra Surge, maybe try to, Tectonic Shock, try to force something out from the other side. Yeah,
you see Narukato curling up on the high ground, and Ken is just making sure to keep them in the site constantly, make it so Narukato cannot just go in with that full health. B can be utilized, though, the moment the window comes out from Virtual. So it's like knee-jerk reaction to that scenario, and Ken is gonna try to go for it right now with that Tectonic Shot, forcing Narukato in a really weird scenario. Will eventually be taken out as the flip is going to come through, and Ronan has to try to clutch this out. It's Hypno from the high ground now with their own Ant Matrix being brought into account, but a pick needs to be found, and Hypno managed to find one, but it's just them and Ronan for the time being. It's going to be Narukato having to come back and use this blade potentially, but honestly, in this scenario, they're going to get the cap, and realistically, this fight should be theirs.
This fight is going to be theirs, and honestly, if they can find Hex on the way out, that's going to be even better for it. Hex trying to escape, going to be just able to somehow. Hyken now making a swap over to the Genji. I thought the Venture was actually working out very well, but in this kind of situation, you need someone that can kind of pressure out the backline and have that opportunity to get out a little bit quicker than the Venture here. You have this blade, you have an overclock ready to go here. Spingar's Deadeye, though, Hunter. That might be something that really catches them off guard, and it's coming out early.
It is right now. Dreamy's trying to find a little bit more as well. Gets speared back, but Immortality Field going to keep them going. And now it's Narukato hoping to end it with the blade, and successfully so is the least to say, as eventually pushed back. Little bit of teabag for good measure, and he can trying to make it back for a touch. Unfortunately, it will not happen. 99-99 ends up going the way of Dhill Dragons. An excellent pullback for them to take this first round.
Excellent, Hunter. My feeling is this is going to be how this entire series goes, or at least how I hope it goes. Again, we have to remember the stakes here for both these teams. Dhill Dragons essentially playing for their lives. They have to win their final 2 games and get a lot of help outside of that. You're looking at Tanuki Tapire. They're already in. Granted, you said this is for seeding. The lowest they can go with a loss is 8th. The highest I think they can go with a win, I think, is only 4th as well, which is where they're currently sitting. Maybe 3rd if there's some chaos at the top. But I mean, if you're Tanuki here, you're really trying to have a good closeout to the regular season, because there's a good chance that you might end up seeing Dhill Dragons if they come out on top here tonight in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, because it's a world of a difference than going up against one of the current 8 and 5 teams versus having to go up against someone like Young and Beautiful or Trainland out the very first round. So as we're getting started, I think the one thing that kind of pops up to our mind right here, Squeak over on the Winston and Spingar on the Soldier 76, a character we don't see get utilized very often at all. In fact, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw them in a FaceIt match like this, as Spingar eventually gets taken out, but a nice executed dive with a Kendo, and Squeak in turn is going to cause for that first cap to go in the favor of Tapire, as Ronan being kept alive momentarily by the Immortality Field.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see this composition at all, like you said, Tanuki. This is like Overwatch launch kind of comp at the moment, outside of Kiriko from Virtual. But, I mean, this is just a really good counter comp, in my opinion, to what we are seeing come out from Dhill Dragons. Getting rid of Ronin here, Ronin will find Spingar, though.
Yeah, Ronin being taken out eventually, though. No mech, no tank to speak of, which means the stall game is only going to be so strong. The bright side is you still have both supports hanging around. Dreepy has all the care they can need in the world. Hazard Day is hanging up on the high ground for as long as they can. Gets into Mortality Field at potentially one of the best times possible, but is eventually burnt away as 22% will be the limit as, so far, pretty scrappy fights between these squads.
And that's what we expected from these two. I mean, you're going to have Kitsune Rush ready here now for Tanuki. That should really help him out, especially also having Pulse Bomb not that far away from Beat and Primal Rage. I mean, you have sustainable ultimates right now if you're Tanuki. You just have to live through this damage, but it looks like they want to play fast, but the damage dropped from the other side.
Yeah, they're trading out, though. Squeak going down is pretty devastating, but they still managed to bring this over. Virtual managed to get the back-to-back hits over onto Nadakato as well, and unfortunately, Dreepy might have to think about investing if they want to take this, but instead, they're going to go with Ronin and just back out a little bit instead.
Yeah, a 1-for-1 ult trade right there. You'll take that. You're coming up to 2 ultimates, both your DPS ones here, and that should just be enough to really win you a fight. And hey, finding Spingar out early, that's a great pick.
Yep, and now Dreepy wants to try to close this one out. Has that 150 energy on the mark. Squeak ends up going down. And realistically for Tanuki, this should be going down. Dreepy gets another. Might be throwing it out with the 3-piece, but How's Your Day takes that instead. That's going to be 67% online here for Tapire, and Dreepy having a relatively good start so far.
Really good start for Dreepy, and again, a series you need to have your players have standout performances, and right now they're having a standout performance. You're still in a good spot. You have a bomb as a remaking tool, but you're gonna have to go into a lot this fight from the other side. Visor, Pulse Bomb, Beat, and a Primal Rage. I mean, the sustain is there as well. Right now, if you're Dhill Dragons, you just want to find yourself in the lead if you end up losing this fight.
Yeah, and now rough scenarios, Nadakato is Lily in a rock on a hard place. Beat comes up online. Not going to be able to help Dreepy in this scenario, though. Back to a 45 situation. They're trying to close in. Pulse Bomb comes out. Not going to catch on to anybody. Is Squeak going to force the gap to go further and further along? Ronin trying to find something, but unfortunately, he's just going to have to die and hold on to the mech. As them and Nadakato just going to stall off for as long as they can. Will get very close to the same amount of percentile, but will get stopped at 65 instead. And this has been a very back-and-forth point so far.
Very back and forth, but Tanuki, they played that fight almost perfectly. Look, they're still holding on to Pulse. They're still holding on to a Primal Rage, which Squeak has had now for these last couple fights. They haven't necessarily feel pressured out yet, or in a bad enough spot to necessarily feel like they have to use it, which shows they have a lot of confidence in their support to keep them alive and kicking here. Ronin, the only one ready to go with an ult, but now the Primal Rage is out.
Yeah, Squeak went in to get that last few ticks that they needed right now, and now we're sitting at 94% on the board. Finding another pick could be devastating with Head No down. Ronin trying to fight for their life. They get stuck instead. With that being the case, Tanuki going to bring this over to the third and final round as we're headed over to downtown to finish it out.
Scrappy plays. That's what we're expecting this entire series. Both these teams have been back and forth. But just, I think the Winston right there was a big difference for Tanuki. I just think not having to, just being able to go through amp or for defense matrix on the other side. Ronin tried to do what they could. I just think the slight difference as well. Spingar on the Soldier, while we didn't see their name in the kill feed a lot, they were probably playing a lot, or they were playing it a lot like a Freya in weird ways. They were on the off angles, just finding so much damage, allowing the rest of their team to really clean up there. And now, though, you see some swaps already coming back out here. Looks like Dhill Dragons, they want to try to play with the Hazard here. I like the pick. Spingar on the Soj and Hyken starting off on the Sim, but gonna probably go right back over to the Tracer here. So yeah, not much difference between the two teams here outside of the tanks.
Yeah, Ronin goes in pretty aggressively here. It's going to take a lot of damage, but again, that block that the Hazard is able to utilize is pretty useful as Hypno managed to get rid of Hikendi or so. This creates a very interesting set of circumstances as Tapire are going to struggle without that Tracer there to follow up on a lot of those dives. Hex sitting super low. That's going to close out that first fight, and for Dhill Dragons, that's about as clean as it could have been for them.
Yeah, it really was, and I would not be surprised if you don't see maybe a swap come out here from someone on the side of Tanuki. Maybe not this time around, next time though, if Ronin continues to just be able to survive. The sustainability, a lot like Orisa, is there for this Hazard. A little bit more damage potential though, especially in the close range. However, I mean, Hypno was the one that was doing a lot of damage there. You saw him find the first pick, and that just gave Dhill Dragons all the momentum they needed in that first engagement.
Yeah, the Vanguard gets a nice shot, does get taken out directly afterwards by their counterpart Dreepy. But it being a 4v4 still means it is winnable as Ronin, Dreepy, Hypno sitting low momentarily, but are trying to stay together, trying to bring something to utilization. Dreepy nearly ends up going off the map as they get pressed further and further away from the fight as Ronin just getting surrounded at all angles. 2 health, unfortunately, will be burnt out in time as it's just the stall game at this point for Dhill Dragons, only going to manage about 46% as Tanuki, Tapire, gotta take over.
That's 46 good percent though, but the biggest problem was in that entire fight there for Dhill Dragons, you didn't get an ultimate out from the other side. Granted, they didn't really build up that many ultimates. You have the consumers ready for virtual. Hyken has their own pulse bomb, so they're gonna have those pretty early on here. Sweet gonna be able to actually have probably the primal rage here at some point in this engagement. Hypno going first, virtual soon be following after with their own Kitsunis.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on at the same time. A Ronin of all people gets taken down first. Cleanse comes out, not in time though, because it was on the cooldown, so Spin Guard goes down. But Squeak, more than happy to move in, has a primal rage if it is absolutely necessary, but doesn't look like it's going to be, as you're going to try to get it back out if you're Narukato. Unfortunately, just ain't going to happen.
And I mean, that was kind of a costly engagement there for both teams, but hey, if you are Tanuki, you came out on top of it and you're feeling really, really good. You look over at Dhill Dragons though, beat Downpour and an Overclock here. You are in a good spot. However, you're going to basically have the same ultimates on the other side, just minus the Downpour and the Primal Rage. A little bit more sustainability, but if you can find Squeak out early or force out that Primal Rage early, it works out for you later on in the fight.
Yeah, unfortunately, Downpour gets used specifically for Squeak, and it does not catch on to them. So now we're at 60% and counting. Beats the line for both squads. I mean, you're trying to buy something with these overclocks as well. Dreepy gonna go for it, waiting for Beats to come online. They get traded out. Every ult that is available is currently being used. Squeak is getting everything thrown into their face. They're trading out one after another, but it's Ronin who's staying on top, and Dhill Dragons currently with the advantage. Just need to close in on these DPS that are still hanging around from Tapire, as it looks like eventually they should be able to take this away with just a little bit more stall here available for Hiken.
Hyken's doing a good job of stalling this point out, even finding a pick. Ooh. And look, that actually allows some fallen members to get back into this one. Hunter, I don't think this point's gonna swap over here.
It might not. It really depends. It does come over right now, but you gotta get Virtual here. Virtual's just hanging around in the back where they can't be dove, and even if they are, they have the cooldowns necessary to get out immediately.
I mean, you really need that there if you were Dhill Dragons, but I mean, you only have the Kitsune and a Pulse Bomb coming up here. Pulse Bomb already ready, and Kitsune about to be ready here for Virtual. I mean, these two teams are pretty much matching each other when it comes to ultimates. I do like that Tanuki's already trying to drag the fight here towards point. It'll work out better for them in the end. Ronin, though!
Oh, gets stuck, and that ends up getting rid of Narukato somehow. They jump directly into them, and now it flips over. It's worst case scenario. They're cleared out away. No overtime available, and Tapire gonna take this first map away. Even Hiken realizes what happened there.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a postal service worker right there, getting the package from one person, bringing it to another, and staying alive to tell the tale. Unfortunate play coming out there that led to Dhill Dragon's downfall in that map and in that fight. I don't know if that fight would have gone their way if you don't see your own Tracer get killed by your hazard, but it's just an unfortunate play there from Dhill Dragons. But if you're Tanuki, hey, really, really good first map there for you. After a lot of back and forth, I mean, winning those final 2 points, especially that second one, in kind of a dominant fashion, you're kind of showing, you know, right now you're definitely trying to put Dhill Dragons down a little bit, saying that this might be their final game of the season that has some factors in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case in this situation, but credit still has to be able to go back over to Dhill Dragons for making that as close as they were able to. Again, I think we have a clear style that we are seeing from them that they want to be able to utilize. And it's a squad that clearly has learned from a lot of the mistakes they made previously about aggression and are really trying to take these aggressive fights. And I think it's working out more often than we saw previously. But Tapire is, again, a squad that has already been following this philosophy for weeks on end, that is used to it. It's the reason why they're one of the 4 teams that are locked into the playoffs already. So I'm curious to see what the adjustment is going to be. I know for a fact we're going to Circa Royale for our second map. And Dex, tell us about the bans, because one makes sense, the other,
Ramatra and Pharah are the bans here, and I imagine the Ramatra ban is the one that makes sense to you, but Pharah also makes a lot of sense on this one as well. Hunter, we've seen Circle Royale several times where we've seen these sort of picks you really only see on this map. Iari, Pharah is definitely one of those other ones you do see pretty often, and we have seen it work. I mean, hell, you even go back to Tuesday when our casted series in the NA, we saw Pharahs from both sides on both teams on the defensive side. It is definitely a pick just based off around that you can play around corners and get a lot of burst damage out there. Freya's back available here, so you can see that kind of double burst damage output really find a lot of value here for these teams. And Ramatra being banned out really tells you that if you're going to be playing poke, you really want to focus in on the Sigma. Outside of that, you might be trying to play dive, or hell, just run it down mid playing some brawl.
Yeah, that might just end up being the scenario. Ultimately, I do like both picks, though, and as we see... you know what? Honestly, I do like what I'm seeing at the end of the day, because it's rare that we actually get full-on poke on what is perhaps one of the most infamous poke maps in the game right now, but having the Bap Zen out here is textbook poke right now. We see a major swap, though, as it looks like we're going to be seeing a little bit of a shenanigans here from the Tapire side.
I mean, you have the moment here to make some shenanigans. I like the sim, but the Mei, I mean, we've seen this a decent amount here. Normally see Mei getting banned out here, but it's not going to work out like how they really wanted to. It seemed like Dhill Dragons was fully expecting it.
Yeah, but the bright side is, though, you did kill Ronan. You got who you wanted, so if they manage to push here pretty quickly, ultimately, they are going to have to give up just a little bit of this space.
Yeah, they really are. But you already see some swaps going back out here now. Spingar sticking with the Mei, not necessarily the worst pick, with Hyken going over now to this Freya, which is what you really want to see probably from them here. But Nadokado, don't get cut out too early. You just got your tank back.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty bad scenario if that were to be the case, but either way, we have seen a lot of teams struggle at this point right here. In fact, sometimes we don't get to see a lot of teams end up going to the end of the map. We have seen ones, and right here, both teams being held at first point, but Ronan getting primaried into by Spingar, going to be able to survive momentarily, but How's Your Day going down means you lose out on a lot of that ability to really target focus, but Nadokado is not letting that stop them, getting forced back, trying to get a little bit of care, hiding away, gets bounced up by the wall, but Ronan, unfortunately, not as lucky, as now it's entering a dangerous territory as Tapire has this all but locked in.
Yeah, Nadokado is going to have to be the one you're looking to get touches here, and they just don't have the sustainability. A nice ice wall there by Spingar to deny them their exit. First point already capped up here for Tanuki, and if you're Dhill Dragons at this point, Hunter, you kind of have to be considering maybe making a swap, maybe even potentially mirroring the Mei out here, and I like what we're seeing here from Tanuki. Push up, try to force Dhill Dragons to stay inside the casino here at the moment, but eventually you're going to have to let them out like you see here, but you have the ultimates coming up here to really stop them in their spot.
Yeah, you really do. That orbital ray could be fantastic to work with right now. Ronan obviously does have a really good benchmark over here to make something work with their flux. But Bolo Shot comes in. It's going to catch directly into the base of Hex, but it doesn't do anything to get rid of them. Ronan gets frozen up, and unfortunately, there's no one there to really help them out. Everybody from Dhill Dragons have to back up. Flux is being utilized. Multiple bodies caught, and Squeak is going to help clear things away. And again, it's going to be a quick cap, and they're going to have about 5.5 minutes going into third.
Yeah, and I mean, just Tanuki is playing this map perfectly so far. And they're using ultimates at the right time. A late stagger coming out here. Actually, they're going to get the Flux off.
Yeah, but it's a tied thing right now. They got to keep Ronan up, but Ronan just can't survive through, and now the investment does not work out. All it did was cut off about 10-15 seconds from that total. As How's Your Day, unfortunately, gonna die the late death. And I mean, for Tanuki Tapire, this is literally the best start you could have had so far.
It is. Maybe just because you wanted to make sure you cap that point, you maybe overinvested there to get it, but hey, you got it. You have 5 minutes. You can build those ultimates back here. You have Ebola here from Hyken, and I mean, the only thing on the other side at the moment is this blade from Nadokado. You're not that far away from your own orbital, so if you're Dhill Dragons, you really need to use those two ultimates coming up here to just slow them down, win a team fight, which is something you haven't done just yet. Great read there by everyone on the side. Dhill Dragons not to get baited into that ice wall.
Yeah, obviously you don't want to be thrown into there, and right now Blade gonna come through from Nakakato, able to help catch onto one. Unfortunately, does get taken out in time. Squeak is still pushing forward and forward. There needs to eventually be a consensus to go on the low Sigma, but unfortunately, people still kind of hanging around as Squeak somehow has managed to survive all this time, but eventually will be taken out as Dhill Dragons finally secure their first fight win.
And Hex, gonna be able to get out right. Nope, not gonna be able to get out. Honestly, that should send back. That should send, even with that pick coming in right there, if you are Tanuki, you should be backing up. Yeah, you got one with the bolo right there on the follow-up, but you've already lost 3 more in that kind of half engagement. You just take the 15-second loss, regroup. You are coming up to a Blizzard, which honestly won you a fight and won you a point last time you used it, so you're in a good spot. You're not that far away from Flux. But if you are Dhill Dragons, look at what you have here. You've actually done a good job just kind of reestablishing yourself in this map and in this round here. Finding early picks like that is going to keep it going.
Yeah, but now it gets a little messy because they were in a little too deep. Nakakato there has been coming alive as this map has progressed. They're going to be cleared away, and now, unfortunately, Spingar and Hex is going to die on the outside as, hey, I mean, that 5.5 minutes moved down to 3.5, so 2 minutes down. I mean, it's a pretty good defense so far for Dhill Dragons.
Yeah, we see this a lot on this map in particular, but honestly, I want to give a huge shout out to How's Your Day. And just playing very dangerously on the edge. Hypno also getting a great immortality field to make sure they stayed alive, but yeah, How's Your Day? That was almost a perfect example of how to play Juno on the edge of a map. And now, 4 or 5 ultimates about to be up here for Dhill Dragons. You have to use them sparingly here because you're about to come up to 4 or 5 ultimates on the other side as well. You might have the advantage here at the start. Don't waste them all at one moment, though.
Yeah, Flux has been utilized. Bunch of bodies gonna get hit, but everyone's still sitting at relative full health, and now Spingar, I was gonna say, might go for the freeze, but instead, it has to be the double utilization right now. Solo ult used onto Ronin, who's in danger zone right now, is eventually gonna need some help, but there is no help coming their way. And Dreepy is just gonna have to try to run for their lives. Bolo shot being used. Couple caught over here. Dreepy gonna manage to get one within Hiken, but you need to find a little bit more than that as the rest of the squad trying to come back. Blade online, and it might be down to Nakakato to be the hero for this squad. Cutting over into Hex, who's trying to get away. Deep Flight comes through beautifully, able to get 2 at the end of the day, and that should cause stabilization for the rest of this Dhill Dragon squad.
And some swaps going out here for Dhill Dragons now. Just to get back to the point, but I think Ronin's going to stay on the Orisa. I like it here just because you need some sustainability here, especially with Blizzard coming up here from Spingar. 4 to 5 basically negates that for you, and really only you. You have to now build up some ultimates. However, I mean, you're going to be building up to them about the same amount of same amount of pace here as Tanuki's going to be too, other than Spingar. Like I said, that Blizzard could win them this fight here and this point, but nice accretion out there early on, and Ronin desperately needs some help.
Yep, and now that that freezes out, they're going to throw it right down because Ronin is going to have to try to spin out. And in fact, will be able to spin out momentarily, but just ends up getting separated from the rest of the squad. But How's Your Day still hanging around has been, as you said, such a big utilization for this team to the point where Spingar literally solo invests that wall to force them out of the fight further, but it doesn't matter because now Spingar got to die on the point, and now we're a minute 15 away. This looked like a wipe for Tapire at like 4 minutes ago, but now they're being stopped hard.
They're being stopped incredibly hard here. And I mean, like I kind of said, you see this a lot from defensive teams that struggle on points 1 and points 2. They really lock in for third point, and it just is the change of play style here, especially. Yeah, Poke is still strong, but you see Brawl start to come in a little bit stronger here because of the close quarters that you have to kind of push the card through. Yeah, you can play around the edge, which is where you see Tanuki trying to get up to right now, but you're going to be walking into a couple ultimates here if you are them. You have to be able to find a pick here early on. Dreamy wasn't a huge one. You have the Orbital coming up here, but you can invest early on. You might just have to.
Yeah, Hypno's in a bit of a rough scenario as Ronin gonna move through, and you're gonna see everybody move over to point. Virtual has a great ult, Bolo shot being thrown in, not gonna find a whole lot. Ronin gonna get deleted on the spot, and I think the luck has finally run out here. Gonna stop them down to the 19-second mark, but ultimately, Tapire going to finish away the map. But for Dhill Dragons, that's a hold of around 5 minutes long in that area. I mean, if you think about how bad it could have been in comparison, you might be happy enough as Dhill Dragons to have gotten it that low.
Yeah, you might be happy, but you're not happy that you let them complete the map. But you weigh the positives and the negatives. Negatives being they complete the map. Positives, you got 5 minutes off the time back just on that final one. You'll take it. You'll take that every day of the week here for them. But right now, I mean, they kind of have to match. They can't go like kind of limping into the final point push, especially with an overtime cap in point 2, because it essentially means once you get past the bridge there on third point push, you're in your final fight territory. But I mean, you have the stats up right here, pretty even across the board. I mean, give a huge shout to Hypno for only dying 2 times, especially playing BAP throughout that entire round. How's your day? Big contributor there. I mean, look at everyone here. Everyone over 10 elims. You don't see that a lot, even from these long rounds from support. Sometimes they're only hovering around the 8-9 mark, but these supports, they can show that they can be scary at times. We definitely saw it there from How's Your Day. Dreepy is doing a lot here, but I feel like you would want a little bit more from your Freya player. Yeah, the damage is there, but the kills 13, lowest on your team, that's not necessarily what you're expecting from your Freya.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think you're exactly correct in that scenario, as Freyas are both on display as Dreepy. Gonna get off that Sojourn, as we kind of see them primarily. Spingar happy to match it, but I think most interesting, Hex over on that Life Weaver, but to be honest, I mean, this is a pick that we see utilized at the very highest level of competitive play here in Overwatch 2. So I'm happy to see what kind of utilization it's going to have, because anytime Squeak is just in a 2-ref scenario, Dex, they can just be simply pulled out of there at any time.
Yeah, and we see this pick a lot on this map, especially from teams like EK, and I believe Nightmare a little bit at some points. But it's just a fun kind of, it's one of those heroes that you see on this map and maybe only this map. Hyken, though, finding Ronan out, I mean, they could play back, or they could play very aggressive, Tanuki, and they can just be pulled back safely. And you're really looking at Squeak, because you really do expect both Hyken and Spingar to be able to get themselves out of a bind if they necessarily need to. Squeak though, one of the slower moving tanks, definitely needs that grasp to pull them out of sticky situations.
Yeah, 100%. It's a tool that's so simple to utilize, but again, unfortunately, that pull does not bring people back to life, ladies and gentlemen. As Dhill Dragon's getting a little more momentum on their side. Ronan and squad gotta move forward. You would love to get rid of Squeak here, but Squeak still has the double support to keep them up.
Yeah, and I mean, Hypno's gonna have their amp matrix here soon. That should really end up helping out Dhill Dragons here, but they need to get ready to go almost immediately, or use it almost immediately, because Hex building up to that tree will negate it.
Yep, we see Bubble Shot right in the back. He gets thrown in, catches on the multiple bodies, but Avocado literally got the 2-piece on the slice and is going to help clear things around. And that's going to go ahead and take care of that. Going to have 4:40 on the clock here. I mean, Natakado has been putting on a show so far on the Circuit Royale.
Natakado's just been solid throughout this entire series. Going into the attackers or defender spawn for first point, they capped that point so fast that everyone actually spawned back in the second point spawn there. And now, I mean, like I said, for your Dhill Dragons, you need to match what we saw there from Tanuki in that first round. And they're doing a good job of it here. And, I mean, honestly, they have ultimates coming up here that they could just do the same thing that we saw Tanuki do on point 2. Just kind of walk right through it.
Yeah, Bullshot comes out there from Dreepy, who managed to build up already at 25%. Rock comes online, just try to stop that flux, and at the end of the day, doesn't end up doing a whole lot either. So now we've seen both teams invest in ultimate to not find much, and now there's everything being thrown into this fight. Natakado, though, somehow is still finding picks throughout this. Unfortunately, so much got thrown into their face. It's, I mean, having to walk into double support ultimates with the blade, it's a miracle they even got one in that.
Yeah, and now Natakado leaving that large health pack there for their tank is really smart, because they're starting to get that passive healing here as well. And you look at the ultimates now online, you're going to have the flux here for Dhill Dragons. I think that's a little bit better than the overclock from Hyken, unless Hyken can find massive value with it.
Yeah, and that flux is going to clear that away, and now Squeak is going to die a bit of a late death over here. Virtual doesn't manage to escape. A retouch, though, I think is still possible, but it's going to be awkward if it happens.
It's going to be awkward, and Natakado going up there. I mean, Hex is right there. They could be your touch. The speed ring coming out from Virtual. Squeak actually swapping over to a Doomfist. They want to get a touch here, Hunter, because, again, that 4.5-minute time bank that they could have here would be huge for them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it's over before it even started. You maybe, but now you're pulling them up in the air, causing a little bit more stall, but now the shoe's kind of going on the other foot, as Dhill Dragons finishing with just a little over 4 minutes here, and are currently on track to finish with a pretty good time if they can break past this corner.
I mean, yeah, like I said, you didn't want to go limping into this one with an overtime cap if you were Dhill Dragons. And Hunter, this is what we expected from the series. I'm going to keep on saying it throughout this entire series to the point where it just loses all of its meaning. We expected a very back and forth one. We know what Dhill Dragons have to do here to give themselves a chance at the playoffs is to win this series. And right now they're down it. And now they're also down this fight.
Yeah, for Spingar, it's beautiful. They've been having a really consistent game. They get a 3K here. Ronan, though, should realistically be able to get out with the help of How's Your Day. But this is the way that Tapire needs to play the rest of these 3.5 minutes. Play it aggressively and, honestly, play up right on this choke.
Yeah, and what we didn't really see a lot from Dhill Dragons just because they got pressured out almost immediately from Tanuki. You're going to have to invest ultimates, and I like the damage coming out here early on, but that ice wall just going to kind of cancel out most of it.
Yeah, but it's going to give the ability to start pushing past here momentarily, but you see the way this is going. Everybody's sitting in a different area from Tapire. It's hard to really go through and do anything. Freeze comes up online. Nobody gets caught in it. However, Wall trying to separate some people, but at the end of the day, this is burning away precious time as Bullet comes out online. How's Your Day able to help get rid of Spingar as a result of that? As now, it's Akendo trying to go in, and they managed to get rid of just one, and now it's an awkward scenario, because at this point, this is becoming a stall central on the point.
Nice kind of plays there from Hex just to make sure they keep some of their teammates alive. They will lose Squeak, but you trade out How's Your Day, and now this cart finally moving here for Dhill Dragons. But you look at the time bank, Hunter. I mean, they've already almost gone off 2 minutes of that time bank before Dhill Dragons were really even able to get going. But you look at what Dhill Dragons coming up to here. They have a Blade. They have a Flux, not that far away from an Orbital Ray. That might honestly do it here for them. Yeah, you're looking at the ultimates that Tanuki has, but I mean, if the Flux finds 1-2, the Blade finds 1-2, the Orbital Ray will just be there to seal the deal.
Yep, and right now, again, trying to stay hidden and find the shots needed, and they get the 2Ps on a Dreepy to clear them away, and now Flux gets used in a hurry by Ronan. They survive that accretion to stop them, but Squeak does not go down, which means, I mean, Dhill Dragons are a bit of an awkward spot now.
They're in a very awkward spot, and Ronan basically landed in high kick. I mean, that one play right there might come back to really hurt Dhill Dragons. The fact that Ronan did not notice them. If Dreepy was alive throughout that Flux, you probably find 1-2. You probably feel safe using the Blade to clean up the fight, and then you have the Orbital Ray for your next fight. But now, Hunter, I mean, we could see the Amp Matrix and the Orbital Ray come out at the same time, and that is a lot of damage amplification.
It really is, and now Squeak also having this Flux means that anytime, the moment that rock comes out from Ronan, they have the ability to simply go for it, and now they get stuck. Oh my god, I mean, Alicado just gets bullied in the room, but you still managed to get rid of Virtual. This is still a very winnable fight, but unfortunately, Dreepy simply gets turned on, and there's so many low members overall, but Ronan is going to get forced into the room, frozen away as Natakado now going to match the May.
It might be a little bit too late, though. Spingar already is up to that major perk where they have the freeze back, and you saw right there onto Ronan. Ronan now going over to the Orisa. We saw this from them on the defensive side, and it worked out great for them. Helped them get rid of 5 minutes of time. However, with 40 seconds left to go, it might be another one of the situations where it might just be a moment too late. And Tanuki, they have ultimates here. Good ultimates as well. Hiking gives you this Deadeye, really just to zone out and force a final fight in the overtime time here.
Yeah, this bullshot honestly might be the biggest thing needed. They need to catch on to somebody like he can, but we see a Flux be used instead. It's going to catch directly onto Ronan, who's just going to try to get out of that. Bolo shot comes out. It's going to catch onto a couple of bodies, but nobody goes down, and Dreepy is going to get caught out, and now How's Your Day is just going to have to pop this thing and go for it. Get some touches on the point. Squeak does get taken out pretty easily, and now Spingar is in a bit of an not the place I would want to be as a May, but they should realistically be taken out, but Deadeye gets activated here from Haken, trying to zone it out, as right now, unfortunately, it's not going to do a whole lot.
It's not going to do anything other than just kind of force them back here and make sure that no one was going to pressure them out. Now, though, you look at Ultimates. Hypno has their Amp Matrix. Not Okado, the Blizzard, though, that might just be the difference maker here. Virtual Amp Matrix, though, ready to go. You're going to see dueling amps.
Yeah, you see hanging above right now, Dreepy over on that Tracer, just trying to bring pressure. They're turning for them, but the thing is, eventually, they have to go with this freeze and find the selective target. You get super low there over on Nikendo, unfortunately, and they cut off the point!
Oh! Oh! Hunter, that's a back-breaking moment right there.
Dex, that is a bad C9. I don't know what could have happened in those moments for that to go down. I
think we saw the Orisa from I believe we saw Squeak just pressure them out a little bit. I think they spear spun them off the point right there, and the overtime was already going on for so long that it was a fast burning wick. And now your Dhill Dragons, well, your season hopes and your playoff hopes, I mean, all rest on a reverse sweep, and they're bringing us to Midtown, which map that me and you, Hunter, have not seen maybe all but once so far this season.
I think once is the answer. Yeah, it's not a map that you see very often selected by teams. I think kind of for good reasons. I think that there are just hybrid maps that teams prefer to play a little bit more, like that Kings Row, just as an example. But going to Midtown means that you probably have some idea of how you want to play this. And considering how things went here on Circuit Royale overall, I don't dislike this choice at all, honestly.
I don't. Oh my goodness.
That's still insane, though.
I don't dislike this choice at all, but I feel so bad for Nanokata. If you look at their stats for last round, they had 40 elims, most in the lobby 40. Most in the lobby by 4 over Ronin, but the most that any of the DPS players for Tanuki had was 27. Not Okado. You mentioned it. They have been playing an incredible series so far. That is a painful map to lose right there for them.
Yeah, because the thing is that they had that freeze ready to go as well. They had a good option coming up there if they were able to get the utilization they needed, which, to be fair, all that needed to happen was just for Squeak to use that gold form, because it's the same exact way that Tapire ended up winning their final fight when they were on third point. Was they waited for, Ronin to use their gold form on Orisa, and they literally just solo froze him and destroyed him on the spot, and that basically secured them that fight win. It's an unfortunate scenario, and I think that maybe there's a bit of, as we cut over, a little bit of PTSD over here from the Dhill Dragon squad, as they're going to get rid of the Orisa now.
And get rid of the Orisa. This is... Midtown is a good map for Orisa, but there's definitely better options. I feel like we're gonna end up seeing potentially a lot of Hazard. Maybe Diva Winston comes back out here. But I mean, if you're Dhill Dragons, playoff hopes on the line here now. You kind of need to forget about what just happened in that last map. You really do. And I mean, if you're Tanuki Tapire, you're feeling really good about yourselves right now. Like, really good. You're probably one more map win away from, at the worst, locking yourself into probably a top 6 spot. You'll take that.
I mean, yeah, exactly. A win would knock them into what? It would be 10-5 overall, and that's where they would end up sticking at, which, again, is a brilliant thing. That means for anybody to pass them, they would not only have to win out, but they would also have to have the advantage over them in map differential or a head-to-head. But obviously, we'll see what the case is going to be, as we're currently waiting for this game. So, you know what? Let's take a quick moment here as we're waiting for lineups to be finalized. I'm going to check in on some of these other matches going on currently. Some of them going about how you would expect. Young and Beautiful currently 2-0 over Extinction Zero. We have Alternate currently up 2-0 on Helios, a game that Alternate needs really badly. But what the interesting one, I would say, Iliad Artemis versus Midori is currently tied 1-1 right now.
And that's a really interesting series, especially for Midori, who is sitting in the playoffs at the moment. I believe Artemis has already been eliminated from the playoffs, but they're trying to make sure they stay locked into Masters, I believe. Yes. And you talked about Alternate. You talked about Alternate beating winning their game. They needed that one desperately, because me and you had talked about it. They were on a little bit of a slide here, losing 4 of their last 5. A win here doesn't lock them in, but it puts them into a really, really good spot where they still have to play, I believe it's Uni Academy in their last game. Mm-hmm. Still puts them in a tough spot for that one, but a win definitely takes a lot of pressure off them.
Yeah, but none of that stops Dhill Dragons from being in the most pressurized spot they could possibly be in. It can only be a reverse sweep to keep them in contention, as Midtown, as beautiful as is this time of year. As again, I mean, when your back is against the wall like this is where sometimes we see the very best or the very worst out of teams. And Ronin currently sitting over on their Amatra to get things going. We haven't seen them on it quite yet, but to be fair, I believe, you know, it's one of those scenarios where I think Ronin can get away with a lot on a character like this. A character that is able to play poker, play close, literally as interchangeably as they'd like.
Yeah, and you also see Dimitri coming in for the first time here for Tanuki. They're also playing the Ramatra. Hyken on the Widow. I like it. They have this lead. They can take... Oh, they just want to take a pop shot, make sure no one was peeking them there. Gonna go immediately back over to the Genji. Like this from them here, but you look at the lineup here, or the comp for Dhill Dragons, they really don't want to play up in your face, maybe outside of Nadokado. But the moment you get in their face, they aren't also going to, you know, roll over.
Yeah, Creepy getting a little bit of pressure on the high ground, but Hypno is more than happy to hang around and keep them going as Dimitri is just taking a little bit of pressure. Nadokado currently just sitting directly by their side as they're going to attempt to rush down both Nadokado and Hajide, but both of them simply get out of dodge. As there's a whole lot just going around the center here, but nobody has actually managed to go down quite yet, as Ronin going to push on them just a little bit, trying to make something happen, but Dimitri going to run directly back to them, hoping to get all these consecutive punches in a row, and it works out beautifully, but ultimately they simply trade out Ramatras as Hex and Kendo got the back end, unfortunately Virtual. Bit of a weird scenario right there with Spingar.
Well, they have Spingar, so they're not going to immediately be pressured out, but now they will let Spingar's gone. Dreepy finding two, and Hyken is going to be flailed back to spawn right there. Hex not going to be able to leave either. A really good first fight there for Dhill Dragons. Built up to a lot of ultimates. I mean, look at them. Already have both their DPS, Hypno, about to have their Amp Matrix. This is a good spot for them. And, Hunter, biggest thing is, 1.5 minutes gone before engagement number 2 even starts here. You'll take that kind of fight if you're Dhill Dragons. Eat that time bank down. You're fine with having a very prolonged fight.
You are more than happy to have it right now, and currently, Nadokado has this pulse bomb ready to go. Not really a way to anybody to protect themselves, as Dreepy gonna find one pulse bomb. Going to unfortunately miss here, as they've already used 3 ultimates in this fight, and they're going to win it, but the problem is, they're just gonna have 2 going to this next fight, and now it's a scenario where Tapire might be going in with all 5.
Yeah, and I mean, you're gonna be a little bit, maybe disappointed about that if you're Dhill Dragons, but the 2 ultimates you are going to have are very good sustaining ultimates. However, there is an Amp Matrix, I mean, my bad, there is an Orbital Ray on the other side with those same 2 sustaining ultimates, plus a Blade and an Overclock. So you're going to have to be able to, you're going to have to kite some out, and you're really going to have to try to force some out as well.
Yeah, Orbital Ray is used right out the gate. Hypno is literally getting ran down, unfortunately. Is very unlikely to survive, but Dreepy has managed to get one as Ronin hanging around, and they are really putting quite a couple of volts into this to make it happen. Ends up being an investment of 2, as at the very least, they're going to start capping this first and second tick, and I think with Nadokado going down, a retouch is all but unviable.
Yeah, retouch is not going to happen here. If you're Dhill Dragons, you're just going to go for a very close hold after they cap this point, which you see a lot of teams do. I mean, you still have your own Annihilation, and How's Your Day just built up to the Rally. However, Rally, Annihilation, and Overclock ready for the other side, so you're kind of in a good spot. But Dreepy finding that 1 kill really did help him out here. Look, about to have a Deadeye, they could really use that to zone out an ultimate or 2 here coming up from Tanuki.
Yeah, and right now, Nadokado is literally just getting hard pressured. Spingar and again are just constantly trying to hunt them down as they're trying to simply inch that card further and further as it goes along. But Ronin has an opportunity coming up here with this Annihilation to make something happen, but you see the separation from this Tapire squad. They don't want to make it easy for that Annihilation to find a ton of value, and unfortunately that means that it's hard to really invest on the card in this situation.
It really is. Nadokado's trying to do what they can in the backline. It's not necessarily going to do enough. Dimitri, this might be a point where, yeah, you see that Annihilation come out.
Yeah, and now they are forced to go onto the point and die, unfortunately. It's just Ronin and Nadokado hanging around. Both will go down, and now 2.5 minutes. Gonna go into 1-fight territory realistically as they start going through the underpass. But again, 5 ultimates on the line for Dhill Dragons.
Dhill Dragons basically just reversed everything we just saw Tanuki do. They are now holding on to 5 ultimates. They want to be able to use these sparingly here. Rally, though, on the other side is going to slow you down a lot. Same thing with Hyken's Blade. If it can find 1, only 1. Doesn't need to find 1. Pulse.
LeBron, they are not, as this fight going to continue forward, and Ronan going to go in the investment of the Annihilation directly onto Hex right now, and that unfortunately is not going to save them from being taken down. You're going to try to give your spin guard, but it's not going to happen. Virtual, the only survivor, as, again, a really big investment.
Four ultimates, and the Pulse Bomb is still the most questionable thing I've probably seen all night. Unfortunate for Dhill Dragons. Yeah, you win the fight, but I mean, Blade's about to be online here for Hyken. You don't have a rally now to slow that down. But hey, there's not gonna be a Blade at least early on in this engagement. Virtual though, they're gonna have Orbital Ray, and they might not use it up until probably Final Fight territory on this cart. But by that point, you're gonna see some other ultimates online. Not Akala though. I mean, they're definitely trying to make up for that Pulse Bomb by quickly building up to another one and finding some picks.
Yeah, Spin Guard does get rid of Hypno, so that does put a bit of a monkey wrench in the situation, as, again, is getting a little bit of pressure, being forced to back out eventually. But what's really going on is this rotation, as they're going to be forced back. It's a rough scenario right now, as both Ramashos going to be slowing down. Virtual barely able to escape from the clutches, as it looks like Dhill Dragons are eventually going to be forced off the side ground.
Not for the moment. Ronan, yeah, gonna have to eventually give it up the ship right there, not anywhere near their own Annihilation. But there's the Orbital Ray, countered out by the Ant Matrix. I don't like that trade.
Yeah, Hypno is able to keep themselves going right now, but Dimitri still has the ability to invest with this Annihilation and might have to go all out for it. In fact, is going to try to run down these supports. Hypno does not have the ability to sustain any further. Dreepy literally on one Pulse Bomb invested. Unfortunately, it's not going to get anything, and Spingar is going to help close this out, as Dimitri just going to try to run down Dreepy and end this one out, but still alive is Ronan. They're trying to go in and make something happen. Unfortunately, they don't get bodies back on the cart in time and would have been wiped away regardless, as again, they throw every ult into that fight.
It's a strategy, Hunter. It's not working.
It's not.
It's a strategy for them. I understand why they did it. Again, I'm not trying to, dig on them here. Like, if they won that fight, they stop that round and make sure that they hold them before point 2, which makes it very winnable for them going on to the other side, but they just didn't do that time. However, rally ready for Hex, and that's going to be what immediately they pop off with, because they want to play fast.
Yeah, and I like it, not giving any room to breathe, and they're just, they're just going to clear them away. Nakado going to die last on the cart. I love the utilization. Make it last as long as you humanly can, and eventually they'll do so. And now going into this fight, unfortunately, nobody even really close on the side of Dhill Dragons to that ult.
None. And that's the biggest problem with investing all those ultimates like that, is that you're going to put yourself behind the 8 ball for 1 or 2 fights, and it might only take 1 or 2 fights for the other team to do what they need to do to complete this map. And right now, I'm really looking at someone like Dreepy for Dhill Dragons just to find a pick. Give them some advantage here early on.
Yep, and we're going to see that nade come out of line. Dimitri does get caught out with it, and now you're going to see that ingressment coming through. But Virtual, perhaps for the worst time for Dhill Dragons, has that ult online. Hypno getting deleted pretty much immediately, and that means Ronan no longer has the necessary heals. A nice leap onto, Ramatra just try to stop things out, but unfortunately, Dimitri is going to push them back further. Natakado is the last realistic touch. Doesn't have a recall to their name. Heals are available, but so tough to really do anything right now as we enter into that overtime. It's the least of what you're trying to do, but unfortunately, this is just a stall game that will not come to fruition, as it will be a full cap with no time on the clock, but that means now Dhill Dragons need to finish the map to keep their hopes alive.
And then, hey, that's all they need to do. You can forget about that. You can forget about that defensive round. You still did a good job if you were to Dhill Dragons, but we could question multiple fights because we saw it a lot from them. Just investing ultimates, maybe too many at a time. I think every point you can go back to. First point, they had 5 ready to go, or they had 3 or 4 ready to go, and they invest them all into one fight, put them behind the 8 ball. Second point, 5 into the final fight, put them behind the 8 ball entirely on this last point. It hurt them. It really did. And now, like you said, all they have to do is complete the map. Hey, if they complete with over a minute, then they have the chance to just have one overtime round, which is probably what their goal is. And just looking at stats here again, Hunter, look at what Dreepy's doing here.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. That is,
Fingar are really matching each other well throughout this. Same thing with the tanks. I'm looking at the stats a little bit better now. Everybody is matching each other very, very well. so far. It's just, I think the slight difference in really spin guard, just being able to find a little bit more value.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way it's been. Spingar is finding value throughout the entirety of this game so far. And that's not saying Dreepy hasn't. Dreepy has definitely been finding a lot of effective value in keeping Dhill Dragons in the fight sometimes. But the thing is that some of these fights are just being too heavily invested into, like we've seen previously. But now this is your opportunity to correct that. You simply need to go and finish the map to give yourselves an opportunity. But of course, that is way easier said than done, as we see great spread focus being done right now by this Tapire squad, as Ronin is kind of just forced into a room all by themselves.
Forced into the laundromat, going to be able to fall back to the safety of both, I believe, Hypno and How's Day. But, I mean, we did see Tanuki do the same kind of strategy, but you're also just seeing Dhill Dragons do it a little bit differently, having 2 split down alleyway and 2 just go right down the middle choke. It's not necessarily working out for them just yet, but if, hey, they find pick, it's working out for them great.
Yeah, Hiken being down means that they have the ability to move in a little more quickly. You're trying to pressure Nadakato back, but they're going to get the mega health back, which means they are eventually going to be able to have that recall. But Dreepy going down does put a bit of a wrench in the operation, as Ronin running out of that Nemesis form momentarily, forcing a weird scenario where they're trying to get that in the shield online, but there's no shield available. And that means all of that is going to result in 0 ticks.
And, I mean, we're looking at the same fight we saw last round. About a minute and a half long fight. You're seeing Tanuki built up to 4 ultimates here. And Dhill Dragons only really built up to 2. Dreepy, Ronin, How's Your Day? I mean, yeah, How's Your Day will have a rally here pretty soon, but the rest of them, I mean, Hypno's Amp Matrix is going to have to do a lot. Nadakato is going to have to find something with this Pulse Bomb. And it might just be the only thing you really find with it is that it's the Immortality Field, but hey, that works out.
Yeah, Pulse Bomb comes out online as well. It's not going to get a whole lot. In fact, How's Your Day ends up going down of all people, which makes things a little bit awkward in this scenario. But bright side is Hypno being alive means you still have utilization. But Dimitri is going wild, getting rid of 1, and unfortunately for Ronin, this is going to be a bit of a later death. But Nadakato somehow manages to get rid of 2, and now Nadakato just doesn't have the numbers with them anymore.
That's the unfortunate part here, but I mean, if they regroup with their team quickly, they could try to get a fast re-engage. However, you're going to see everyone come back. Virtual still holding on that Amp Matrix. Hex has Rally. 2 really good ultimates, especially when you're walking into a Rally, Annihilation, and Overclock on the other side. I mean, you just need to find value with these ultimates. If you're Tanuki, you could look for a first point hold here, end the series, and lock yourself into a really good seat.
You really could, and right now, Dreepy forced back a little bit, but is still staying alive. Unfortunately, just you can't really peek this. If you peek this and die, the fight's pretty much over, so they just have to do the 1-for-1 ult trade and just reset real quick.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be a quick regroup right here. Ronin has Annihilation ready to go, and honestly, Hunter, they need to go fast with this. They need to try to drag this fight towards point, because the Annihilation and the Rally will really help you out. Rally already out from How's Your Day to keep themselves alive.
Yeah, and now Warp Scenario Spin Guard gonna be thrown back. Eventually, we'll get taken care of. Double Rally now out there, as Dimitri in a bit of an awkward spot right now. You're eventually gonna see these squads try to come together, do a quick little regroup, get their 5th member back. But for Ronin, this is on them now. Kendo gets rid of Nadakato. They're gonna be able to re-engage, and Ronin, the only ult currently available, needs to keep their team alive as they're gonna try to run down the backline. Spingar is thrown on further and further, getting burnt away. Unfortunately, Immortality Field there, and Dex, they are holding on by a thread.
Holding on by a thread here, and I mean, this Annihilation is gonna have to come out here at some point. Hyken built up to the Pulse Bomb, already out, not gonna be able to find one. Nadakato back into the fray, but you're seeing a trade.
Yeah, it's not the best trade in the world either, as your bat being taken out. You were so close to having that window online ready to go, and now it's about trying to get rid of Dimitri, but it's 99.4, and they do not re-engage onto the point. They're going to be drilled away until Dragons keeping their hopes alive.
Like you said right there, they are keeping their hopes alive by the skin of their teeth. And Annihilation to boot here. I mean, if you want to play aggressively here, if you're the Dhill Dragons, you have your opportunity, but you're allowing Tanuki to build up to their own. Annihilation, you already see another Amp Matrix. Spingar has Overclock ready to go here. I mean, you're still kind of lagging behind in the ultimates, but this is a lot like first point of Watch Point, where you do see the defense teams allow them to push it. I would not be surprised if Tanuki allows Dhill Dragons to push the cart under the bridge.
I wouldn't be either. Window being used very specifically to get rid of Ronin, who was literally just holding the shield right now. Hex, you are not at the right home, my friend. They're going to be forced back as eventually Ronin is going to be forced to get out of this form. Going to go back into their nemesis to be able to try to finish things off. Unfortunately, Dimitri has all in the care in the world, but at the very least, they are getting some push during all of this.
They're getting some push, but again, it's push that they are allowing them to have. The Annihilation coming out is just going to seal it here for them. This fight's already over. Dreepy, and how's your day? Not going to be able to leave, and Nadokado, the last one to join their team back in the spawn. And like I said, this point is played a lot like, in my opinion, first point on watch point is. The defense team really allows the offensive team to push the car, especially once you get around this turn, under the bridge. And, I mean, look, you got ultimates out from Dhill Dragons. Yeah, they're coming up to 3 ultimates here, but without that Annihilation, I just don't see any of those ultimates necessarily being scary. But Nadokado, they're putting on a performance here, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, Dreepy really needs to hit these shots. Unfortunately, not able to get it onto Spingar quite yet, but it's still pressuring them back. It's a scenario where they are in one-fight territory, but Hex is going to go with this rally to create a little extra sustainability. Going up right there is a Kendo who's going to catch onto things, but luckily Hypno has the Immortality Field ready to go to keep things alive. How your day, happy to invest back with the rally as well to keep themselves going. Dreepy eventually getting that care. Ronin is running it down, but Ronin needs care, and unfortunately Ronin's gone down, and that could be worst case scenario for Dhill Dragons.
That is worst case scenario, because Ronin, to get back, or at least get back to Cart in time, might have to make a swap, but no, they're going to stay on the Ramatra. And who's going to be the toucher here? Nadokado, you have to be valuing your life here, because you are the touch at the moment. Hunter, this is Dhill Dragons' final gasp here for a playoff chance.
Yep, and it's going to go. They're going to get the touch right here, but there's still a whole of a heck of a lot going on this high ground. Most importantly, eventually, going to be able to forcing them to get off the high ground. Going to try to pull down Spingar, who eventually does get taken out. They're keeping things going as much as they can. Dimitri, though, you have the ability to still go in with this Annihilation, and you need to wait for that right moment to go in and make it happen. As Body's hanging on the high ground, they're going to go for How's Your Day. They're eliminated. Ronin has the Annihilation to throw directly back into their face, though. Does manage to get rid of the tank within Dimitri. And now you're hoping on the rest of the squad to be able to help you realize the rest of this stream of making it through, keeping your chances alive, but the supports carrying each other here beautifully. Dreepy is going to have to pull things out. Not going to have the ult in time. Ronin being burnt away, and the Dhill Dragons' dream has come to an end. They will be eliminated from playoff contention.
So close, but you really needed to have something come from that Annihilation. It did buy some time, but it just wasn't enough. Tanuki Tapire, a great series from them. Really back and forth between these two teams, but when worst came to worst, and in all these scrappy fights, it really seemed like Tanuki was the one that was always coming out on top. This is one of those teams that might go quietly into playoffs. Yeah, they'll be one of the better teams, but I have a feeling a lot of teams are going to kind of look past them and look at some of those, look at those other top teams like Young and Beautiful and some of those other ones in Dreamland. You have to watch out for this Tanuki team. They seem like a team that has put it all together. They work well on many different compositions, and they have those players on the bench as well that are going to be able to come in and make a difference. We saw Dimitri here in the final map. We saw Squeak throughout the majority of the series. Two good tanks, two tanks that can play very different play styles. That is something that is going to be very difficult to deal with in playoffs.
Yeah, it really is going to be difficult to deal with. I'm excited to see the squad go in there and to be able to have this opportunity to go back against these teams like Dreamland, like Young and Beautiful. I'm excited to see how that's going to go down for Dhill Dragons. Silver lining that is there, you will return for the Masters season, for Season 6 coming out there, because there's no way for them to drop into that bottom 4, I believe. But that does leave us with a lot of interesting scenarios, because that means there is still one more team that is going to have to drop down in that spot. And Dex, what we can do really quick is cut over to the games that are already complete. As we see here, 4 games that have already finished. Young and Beautiful beats Extinction Zero 3-0. Obviously, Tapire just beat Dhill Dragons 3-0. Alternate also wins 3-0, which put themselves in fantastic territory for locking their spot in soon. But Shikigami does fall 3-1 to Dreamland, which makes things very interesting. But things can still be affected because still ongoing, Iliad Artemis is currently up on Midori 2-1.
And yeah, that's a very big game for both those teams. I mean, I think it's a very big game for Midori. A win puts them in a spot where they could lose in their final game against Shikigami and still make playoffs. A loss here basically makes that game a must-win for them. Iliad Artemis, I believe, is a team that's knocked out of playoff contention. So they're trying to play spoiler. They're trying to build up some momentum for them to go back into next season and be able to make a lot of noise. And right now, they're doing just that. I believe Iliad themselves is streaming that. I also believe Bullskunk is streaming that one.
I believe so as well. And we have a couple of updates coming through as well. With that win from Alternate Esports, they've officially locked in that top 8 spot. So they are locked in place. So with this being the case, there are 4 teams who are still undecided on their side, which is Shikigami, Midori, Emote down mid, and Extinction Zero. One of these teams is going to have to unfortunately drop into that 8th and final spot of the unfortunate squad that will not be moving on to playoffs. And at this point, obviously, we're going to have to see as more information gets input, how things are going to be changing, because Shikigami Midori losing this game, honestly, it makes it a little more interesting because it puts even more weight on that Shikigami versus Midori game happening tomorrow.
Yeah, Shikigami lost 3-1 to Dreamland tonight. A really good series. I have to imagine it was a really good series between those two.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Midori losing this one, Hunter, that would be a really, really exciting game. I know Bullskunk has that one tomorrow. That's basically for a playoff spot with those two teams. Midori at one of the points, I think, was one of the best teams, or was hanging around the #1 spot in the standings for a while. Shikigami, me and you have streamed them enough over these last couple days, or these last couple weeks, to say that's a team that has been a ball of fire, rising up, putting themselves in playoff contention, when I think 3-4 weeks ago we were both saying, like, they're down and they are out.
I mean, yeah, that kind of has been the case, but still being able to take a map off of Dreamland, not something that every team is honestly able to do, to keep it close like that. So obviously we kind of have to watch and see how these games are going. I'll have to check in on the Iliad stream actually momentarily here. I'm curious how much of an update we actually have on it. Give me just one moment, as I'm gonna pull the stream just for myself and see what the scenario is. I know where it's at. I just have to go and hunt it down really quick. And ladies and gentlemen, I have indeed found it. Currently, with the delay, Artemis is actually up currently 1-0 on Saravasa, and I mean, Dex, it really would be wild if Artemis won this, because I believe that would put them above the bottom 4 and would lock in a spot for them, or at least further help lock them in a spot to get back into this Master Division next season.
Yeah, it really would, and there's still a chance that Dhill Dragons could drop into one of those 4 spots as well. If certain games go certain ways, there's a lot here. But Hunter, I mean, I feel like right now we should get people over to this Iliad game, because it is a very, very interesting one for the rest of the tier, or the tier here.
You know what? You are exactly right, because y'all deserve to watch some live games. Y'all deserve to have some amazing entertainment over there as well. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be closing this out. By the time you have seen this, you might have already had the raid be sent your way. So we'll go ahead and cut over to that game here for y'all. We'll do a quick little raid. But once again, sincerely thank all of y'all for joining us here tonight. It's always an absolute pleasure. We don't know where it's going to go from here, because obviously it's playoff territory. Things aren't set in place quite yet, so the best thing you can do is just watch social media. Watch out for all the matches that are going on, because obviously, Dex, if there are matches to cover, we're going to be doing our damnedest to be able to bring those matches to you, especially from that South American region, where we're hoping to see one of those teams, really shine and pull off a spot getting to EWC. But sincerely thank all of y'all for joining us here tonight. We don't know when we're going to see you next, but I know it's going to be pretty dang soon. So everyone take care and enjoy some more FaceIt League action.